Ciao, Jumpy.
Hello, Peter.
How are you?
Everything is okay, more or less. Italy is still struggling with what COVID rules should apply, so it goes up and down. Now they have decided for a new course where essentially everything will go on until at least middle of March and maybe further on with and that depends now whether we are yellow or orange in our region. Right now we are yellow, which is slightly better, but we could become orange because it's automatic according to new cases and other calculations. And that will decide whether restaurants will be open until 6 o'clock in the afternoon or closed altogether.
Okay.
And also some things about school that is not so clear because school are regional, and so the government has said that they could open maybe part-time for older students and all the time for younger ones, but the regions can then decide to close them anyway or something like that. So that's patchy, etc., etc. We are not allowed to move between regions of Italy
Mm.
unless there is good motive for doing so, which is interesting, work or other necessities. And
Yeah. I guess that's mainly a problem if you're living close to the region border.
yes, but they have effectively managed to make some special rules for small communities which border with other small communities, then they may move, etc. It's kind of
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah.
But anyway, the idea is that Italy will be ruled by various laws like that. Cinemas, theaters, and gyms are closed, and we will be ruled by things like that at least until March or maybe April. That's the only clear thing. But apart from that, life goes on. I mean, for instance, I still don't know how we will teach next semester at university. Our rectorate has not been able, apparently, to decide how teaching should go on. Last term, it was essentially that first year students at university had some class teaching, and higher years had only distance teaching. But still, nothing has been really said about this term that will soon begin. I mean, right now we still have exams, but soon the term begins. And I'm personally interested because I'm the one who does the weekly schedule for mathematics. So I would like to know if they
Yeah, that's
should stay
important
at home or be in
information.
place. Anyway, no, but apart from that, everything goes on. They try to vaccinate as much as possible. Apparently, Italy is rather successful in some percentual meaning of the
Okay.
target groups. But anyway, even if they go on being successful, the thing will not be finished before next Christmas if they don't accelerate.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, but
And apparently, we don't have that many vaccines yet. And then there's plenty of debate about when they will arrive. And also, what the next group is, that's not clear. They want to do hospital staff and over 80s, I think, as the first group. That's kind of decided. Ciao, Dennis. And also,
No, I wish to interrupt because I wonder whether there are more people for this meeting on a different link, because I see that they're editing the file. There's
Well, they're not on the right link then.
No,
yes, we are 4 people, and
I'd noticed a little while ago that someone had edited the file, and so I thought I'd just reload the version. I could look to reload it, and I see Lisa's just edited it. So if all these people are editing the file, why are they not at the meeting?
The only possibility
there's possibilities like yesterday that some people are on the wrong link.
But I clicked on the link that is written in the big list where it's written Friday, 15th of January, 10 o'clock discussions. I clicked on that link. But it's still possible to click, I guess, on the link that's on the right in the half circle, which should be the same according to what's written about it, but it is not.
Well, here's Glenn anyway. And okay, so we've got 2 more. So
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we're now 6.
Maybe we are reassured.
And Ben also.
Yeah, it's good.
I indeed checked whether the 2 links have the same.
They do have the same address, so they really go to the same place. Okay, then.
Well, from
a lot of people will arrive soon.
Hopefully, from next week there will just be 2 links, and there'll be one link which is for all the meetings that are sort of scheduled discussions, and another link that can be used for informal, non-scheduled, things if people want to chat between themselves, different subgroups and so on. Yes, and the first one gets recorded and the other one doesn't get recorded.
If one looks at the lists for this week, there are effectively 2 different IDs. One was different for estimation on Thursday.
Yeah.
The other ones are all on the same, which is this one. Apparently.
Yeah. Well, that'll get sorted next week, and they'll all be the same next week. But we're getting there slowly.
Is there any workshop or whatever you should call them, like the vaccination one, programmed in the future? Any happenings?
Not at the moment, although we thought it would be quite good to have another one following up on the vaccine thing, doing a bit more, particularly to do with, evolution of the virus and so on. So hopefully that will get organized, but we need to find speakers that aren't too busy to come and talk and so on. But if anybody's got any suggestions, we can go on having, short workshops or whatever. It just requires organizing, and ideas.
Well, I guess that from the point of view of things that will turn up as useful for COVID, yes, vaccination strategies is a good topic, but if we are optimistic, we might be interested also in at what level can you really manage the thing without too many restrictions? I mean, we will be back sooner or later at the level is contact tracing enough if the RT is low or something like that? Because everybody is, I suppose, looking forward to when restrictions can be lifted, and then we'll be back to what kind of checks must be kept for a longer time, even if we lift some restrictions.
Yeah.
But okay, that's maybe in the future. We can start with vaccination.
So what was the outcome of the vaccination discussions? I had to leave a bit early.
I don't think there was any special outcome. It was mostly information about how trials have been carried out and should be carried out. If I remember correctly, there was no conclusion really about either optimal strategies, which is an interesting topic, nor about what efficacy really is. I mean, because I guess those are the topics that public health people are worried about. What is this efficacy? For instance, today I read in an Italian newspaper that there is debate about the efficacy of the Chinese vaccine, Sinovac, that is being distributed.
Right.
The Brazilians say it's 50%, while, who was it, the Turks say that it is 90%. The Chinese themselves apparently said 78 or something like that. And the question is, what are they really measuring if they can be so different in some kind of assessment? And then they have apparent explanations. I don't know, I think the Chinese said about the Brazilians that the 50% was due to the fact that they had measured that in hospital staff. And they are more exposed than others, and therefore the vaccine should be less efficacious. Yes. Then we can go on. So there's a topic about, I guess, vaccine efficacy, what it is. And it is true, I mean, it's also a kind of basic thing. If you go for the leaky vaccine model, where 90% is a reduction of the susceptibility of people to infection or to force of infection, then if you pile sufficiently many infectives on the vaccinated person, he will get infected anyway. You just have to make it 10 times more than usual in exposure.
Yeah.
And that's the leaky model. I still haven't heard anybody saying whether things are leaky or 0-1 in the vaccine world.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these things, you know, they're quite contingent, aren't they? So you have dose response type issues, and also you have health issues of the individual. So even someone that's vaccinated, if their immune system isn't working well, then presumably they can become infected.
Maybe, yes, maybe nobody can be 100% protected against any kind of infection risk. And so all vaccines are leaky, the question is. Maybe, I don't know, I haven't heard virologists or immunologists say the final word on these models.
There's also the issue of like whether it makes you less susceptible or less infectious as well.
Yes, there are plenty of practical things, or whether they just, well, apparently all the companies have voted for doing quick research, so they have gone for symptoms. So essentially, all the first numbers we have is that the vaccinated ones at least have no COVID symptoms, up to 90%.
Yeah. Or no, I think it's no serious symptoms. Is it really no symptoms?
Yes, and that may be also different from company to company, what serious was exactly. I don't know. I still also do not have a full understanding what asymptomatic really is. If it means that you don't even suspect that you're infected, or if you just have some headache and say, well, that might be, but it's not serious. I still don't know what asymptomatic really is.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of self-reporting, isn't it? So
yes, if it is self-reporting, then it's the old thing. I mean, some people think that it's okay to have a headache for 2 days, and others worry after an hour. And well, anyway, our paper is going well, I see. It is now rewritten, reassembled. Has anybody had the time to read through it, though? Apart from that?
I looked through it quickly and added a few comments, but not, or a few more comments, because some of mine were already there, and have been sort of lifted from the last time. But
yeah,
I did as well this morning and made a few changes, but nothing drastic. I think it looks really good what you've done, Glenn.
good, thanks. I saw
Actually,
that Jasmina had looked. I saw that the two of you had looked at it, and Jasmina as well, I think, has made some comments recently.
Yeah.
I'm a bit puzzled though, because I'm just looking at the version that Ben most recently saved,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's got the comments on that I put on. So I'm wondering where those went, because I saved those last night. So I wonder if somehow.
You should have comments validating from the 14th.
Yeah, exactly. If
Because I also have an older version, I think.
yeah, I have two. I'm just looking at that. Yeah, okay. Yes, so in the, oh, I'm sorry about this. It's probably my fault somewhere. In the Dropbox, we've got two versions. One that's been just finishes at GM, dated the 14th, and another one that's got some extra GM, JPG, BS, etc., dated the 15th.
So I
And
just
obviously
edited the
these have
version
crossed because my comments are in the first of those, but not in the second.
So I just edited the version that Jasmina had changed this morning. So it's
Yeah,
also
but
possible.
she must have gone back to an earlier one, I suppose, or she probably had it already open, or who knows. It's very easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And possibly I didn't, because I'd only stuck a few comments on. I didn't sort of change the title anyway. I just resaved it. So I'm not sure. I mean, I can go through and move my comments to the latest version, I suppose, at some point. I don't know whether anybody else will have, because there were comments on it from other than me, I think. Well, perhaps just Glenn. So
I think there were some older comments, but
that's right. There were some older comments, and I think you put a few more in when you reordered it.
actually, in the version I'm looking at, it does look like the comments from yesterday are there.
So which are you looking at? The one on the 15th?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at both, but yeah, the one that ends with BS, it seems to have your comments. The ones that I can see in the one that ends GM, I can see those comments in the file that I'm looking at. Maybe.
The latest one is about 4 minutes old, right?
Yeah.
JPGBS.
Yeah,
yeah, I just finished adding my comments. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't got the comments that I put into the version yesterday.
Can you redo?
I will have to go through and move them. I mean, they were.
As I say, I can see at least 3 comments that you made yesterday that are in the version, the newer version.
Oh, well, let me hang on.
Probably.
Let me look again, because
Where is one of these comments?
yeah, they're all. Well, that's odd. They all because I was having trouble with my syncing my Dropbox yesterday, but these are all synced. So oh, I don't know. I'm not seeing them. So there was some comments. Let me look. In 6.
Yes, but you're coded strangely. For instance, I'm looking at what chapter 6.5, policy, open, transparent, etc. Then there is comment IV59, which is presumably yours. But it's
No, that's Ian Vernon.
that's Ian Vernon. So
I
you should
think.
be VI.
Well, I can't see that. So
If there's a VI, then
are you looking in 6.5?
Yes, in 6.5 I saw IV, but if that's Ian Vernon, then okay.
Well, I'm only guessing.
Well, did you write a comment?
Well, I can't see it, you see.
Okay, and
I wrote some comments.
is transparency
I wrote some comments in, where are we? Let's go
Who
back
is
to this
I?
6 new. Oh, you're right, it's IV. Yeah. So in 6 new, I wrote some comments, for example, about the overall challenge. Can you see that?
Let's see, 6
Yeah, need to mention.
Then I see IV11, need to mention using models to suggest what data.
Yeah, well, that's odd because you see, I'm not seeing that in the other version. I'm seeing that in the yesterday version, but not in the today version. So.
No, here I see something. We start with commented.
Oh, wait a minute.
IV11. And
Hang
then
on.
commented IV12.
Let me download again because it's just been changed. So no, it's not. That's really very odd. Well, it doesn't matter. The important thing is you guys can see the
Yeah, I can
comments,
see them.
but I can't see them. Not in the latest version. But they were, anyway, they were fairly sort of general points. I mean, for example, in 6 new, I wasn't quite clear what.
Yeah, I think your phrasing is better. Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure whether I was understanding it right, you know, because there seemed to be a distinction between simpler models and complex models and so on. But, anyway, what is the where are we in terms of going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we're happy with the sort of tweak in the structure, then it'd be good just to sort of get individuals to maybe even just one individual to have a go at redrafting each section, just to, because at the moment it's all a bit messy.
Yeah.
It's just bits that have been taken from different places, and it's not very paper-like, you know, it's not very prosy. So I think we're almost at the point where we could try and write some reasonable prose for each section that, you know, introduces that section and maybe make some attempts to link it to the previous one, or maybe just leave that for now. I don't know what people think, but
I agree. I think that we also need to start thinking about references and links to other papers as well. But I guess you know, I made a link to the data paper, but until we have a bit more structure in that paper, it's hard to know exactly which.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also, I think Dennis's long-standing comment that we need to actually say what the challenges are is a good one. But I think, you know, they're implicit, but they're not maybe stated as, you know, the challenge is.
Yeah. Which have we decided which way we're going to try and identify the challenges? In terms of, you know, are these sort of coming out within the section, or are they?
Yeah, I mean,
you know, whether it's sort of free flow and then the challenge sort of pops up like a theorem, or whether we have a section which is the challenge and then write about it. And we've got a sort of a bit of a muddle, I think.
Yes, but you have an example already at the start in 6 new. There is a sentence about what the overall challenge is, how to incorporate new data structures, etc., in more complex models. And that's a kind of global challenge. And the question is if that's not preferable to try to say we must be better at incorporating mobility data, which would be very specific. Both because there might be workaround where people have different attempts at incorporating mobility data. that
I
we
think it
don't
would be.
refer to, etc. This is more cautious, saying this is important. How do we incorporate new data? And then we give examples into discussion. I don't know if we can be very specific about challenges in the sense that exactly this or that. Do you think it's better to try to highlight the specific ones, examples of the general principle?
I have to say that's kind of what I thought he would try and do, at least, and see how it looks. Because I think those where I've kind of tried to say what the overall challenge of each section was, it was more, I was more seeing that as orientation, and I kind of thought we would then pull out some, like, you know, in this case, I think we have got challenges around, you know, developing models of within host and between host dynamics. And
No, a little bit lower down, then there are some more specific sentences that start with this COVID-19 as highlighted. And they are more specific, but they are still not extremely specific. The
no,
need for better understanding of within host dynamics. It's still not pinpointed exactly what. I mean, how should big data be incorporated? I don't know. It is true that maybe having a kind of general idea, trying to be specific or trying to be a little bit soft on the challenges, is a style question that we go through the whole paper. I don't know. Of course, there's no rule. Sections could be different. Some are specific and some are more soft.
yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
I mean, my feeling is that it would be good to get a bit more specific because it makes it a bit more, somehow a bit, seem a bit more substantial. But whether we actually number all those specific challenges is not quite clear to me. Or whether we keep the numbered challenges to be sort of more generic.
Yeah, I mean, one way we thought about was keeping them, I suppose, because we want to keep them to a relatively small number, not to have thousands of them, was to have them fairly generic, and if necessary, and then have you know, paragraphs almost on different things which would be highlighted but not given a number. But maybe that works, you know, so that bits came out in bold in the text that were a bit more specific but weren't numbered.
Yeah, which is kind of consistent. Like if we look at the bold, you know, the bold sentences, they might
exactly,
but they are, that seems to me roughly the right sort of number then for that.
Yeah, if we labeled all the bold sentences, we'd end up with an awful lot of challenges.
And they do group into, so I think we have.
Yeah, I like how you've done it.
Yeah. Morning. Sorry, I'm late. Are we looking at chapter 6 restructure GM?
GM, JPG, BS. It's
Okay.
something that is 6 minutes old. No, by now it's
Okay.
16 minutes old.
Sorry. Okay. Just to say that I put the Zoom code and stuff, and like I've always done in the past, and it didn't come to this directly, and it had in the past.
Yeah, the Zoom links have changed.
Okay.
Which one
No,
did you use exactly?
I used the code, the passcode and login, like for the coffee time, which is the same as next to it says Zoom link and then password, you know, stuff. But the numbers don't work. The link works. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Just pointing out.
I think
No,
I
it's
just
a-
did that because I logged into an empty Zoom room before I came here.
Yes, but
Yeah,
you
exactly.
you
Sit with
clicked
me.
on exactly what in the bulletin, the latest bulletin.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
click
if you
under the list of meetings where it says Friday 10 o'clock, or did you click on the coffee break link
no, so what I do
in
is
the half circles?
I join a meeting by typing the meeting number and the password. And I joined that, and there was an empty Zoom room. And I was thinking, where is everyone? And then time was passing, and I
Oh, no.
realized, and I was just, okay, maybe it was at 10:30. And then when Dennis prompted, was like, oh, okay, maybe this is wrong. Then I tried to do it, and I couldn't do the link, and then I did it. So
So the explicitly written meeting number does not correspond to the meeting we're in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, but that's like I'll say to Chiara, let's not waste time. No.
No, but it's still strange. I mean, we have been going on for what, 9 months now, or even more. And we still have this problem, strangely enough. That
Yeah,
the
we've
links,
had
the text
This is
don't
the
correspond.
first time.
The issue is today's Zoom link is actually the same as the meeting for the estimation yesterday. So I think
Ah,
Cara's copied the Zoom link from yesterday and then put a different.
which does not have the coffee link number. Then it's
Yeah.
different from the real coffee link.
Yeah, and so we are at another meeting than the coffee meeting now. That's I think what it is.
yes, because the going forward, it sounds as if we're still in a bit of a muddle, but the idea is that there will be two links, one of which corresponds to something which is recorded automatically, and the other one does not record automatically. So all the sort of scheduled timetable things should have the link with the recording, and then the other link is just there if people want to get together informally, you know, what they need a link in order to have a discussion. But somehow that hasn't quite worked this week, but hopefully by next week we will be all on one page. But anyway.
But anyway, I thought Glenn's writing was great.
Yes, it's
Yeah, same.
It's got a much better logical structure to it.
Amazing how good I am at cutting and pasting.
No, take the credit.
Yeah, but the point is, you've got an order there, which sort of structure which works. But we do need to do some rewriting, I think, now to make it sort of more flow better and generally be more sort of consistent across sections.
There is still a discussion, the final 6.6 missing, but we are already at 7 pages of rather small font text. Is it too long? Should it be shortened as well, or is the length more or less okay? When we think about rewriting or reformulating.
I think the rewriting might shorten it a bit anyway, because I think there's quite a bit of repetition going on.
Yeah. Yes, that was my thought too, that it's a bit more wordy than perhaps it needs to be.
Yeah.
And some of the repetition can go.
What did you think about moving that? So one thing that I was suggesting was moving, maybe you talked about it. So 6.4, was it 6.4? Yeah, so we are keeping that as interventions here, or are we diluting it across other places?
Excuse me, what is 6.4? Because I have 6.3 and then 6.5.
Yes, but 6.4 at the moment comes after 6.new. So
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I should keep something the same. The numbers are the easiest.
No, that's okay. I found it. Thank you.
Because I think that bit during this pandemic modeling, that doesn't fit. I mean, parts of it, maybe the part about the intervention, just the intervention part, but maybe that fits better in the 6.2, the next one.
But here we have then the next challenge for this coming week. If there are things to be both cut because they are repeated, then we must know who deletes what, so that both things don't get deleted by different people or whatever. how shall we subdivide the work now?
Yeah, I think that's the big question. I'm not quite clear about that. I mean, Jasmina, it seems to me that 6.2 is, you know, it touches on a lot of the things that Jan-P has been talking about in terms of, you know, how do we know models are useful, and, you know, how can we compare them against data in real time and that kind of thing. Whereas 6.4, the intervention one, I think is still, in my mind at least, I mean, obviously all these things are interlaced, but that it seems
I mean, it's just whether that paragraph which talks about the challenges of, I guess, well, okay, yeah, so then maybe we need to link it. So decide, somebody, I'm happy with the decision, but somebody needs to decide whether that paragraph during this pandemic modeling has been used at the forefront, sits there or in the real-time decision support, and then it's linked to the other. To me, that is more about, a real-time decision support, and intervention is part of it.
Yeah, you could be right about. Sorry, I thought you were suggesting the whole section.
No, I think Jasmina's just suggesting that paragraph, as
I think that.
Yeah, and I think that paragraph is perhaps more to do with decision support and could be.
And I think the second paragraph in what is now 6.4, starting, for example, by tweaking, I don't think we need that because parts of it are in the introduction.
But I wonder if the sentence as such starts out correctly. During this pandemic, modeling has been at the forefront of informing decision-making about predicting impact of different interventions. I don't know, has anybody tried to model exactly what various interventions do? In the sense that closing the pubs, what does that do? In Italy, have closed bars and restaurants and gyms. And all these decisions that are, in some sense, common sense decision, maybe saying that wherever people meet, we should close or something like that. Have they been supported by modeling?
There has been input from modeling to give outcomes of different possible interventions or changes in the interventions that have been sent to people who were thinking about making decisions. Now, how much they were used, we don't know.
But what you mean is that they have been used on a higher level. So avoid the meetings of many people. That's a modeling result. And exactly if gyms or bars satisfy the requirement of being meetings of many people, that has been left to somebody else who has not modeled that specifically. And the same with schools, I guess. It's better to close them or avoid close contacts, and how that is made in detail is a more complicated thing that involves. I don't know, maybe it is true then that modeling has informed interventions, but on a higher level or abstract level.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to some extent, at least in my mind, this section, the challenge about modeling interventions is partly about how much we should be getting into, you know, combining models, epidemiology models, with kind of behavioral models, maybe in the future, to do that kind of thing better. You know, I agree. At the moment, it's quite hard to.
No, because I mean, an intervention is also just saying, if people don't start behaving better and wearing masks, then we will close all pubs. And then, even without doing anything, maybe there will be behavior change. Is that an intervention? It is in a way, right?
So Jumpy, when I say intervention, I mean that is an intervention that is a part of NPIs, and then you have PIs, which are vaccination or antiviral. But if you kind of zoom into subsets of NPIs, then it's difficult because you need to untangle behavior versus compliance versus prohibition, for example, what you're allowed to do, what you choose to not to do, etc. And those things are difficult to model, obviously. And one aspect is that, like, you know, if are people compliant with current lockdown as much as they were in March? The understanding is that not, but it's an assumption, right? Because we don't have exact data about how much more or less.
Yes.
But I mean, we can change this, but I just think that whole thing fits better in the next paragraph, and then the second one starting, for example, I don't think we need it here. Or we can use that sentence instead of, if you don't like the sentence about during this has been at the forefront of informing decision making, we could use the sentence which is in the paragraph starting, for example, and says mathematical modeling has been instrumental in guiding decision makers,
Yeah.
which is a softer
Yeah.
language.
Yeah.
Inspiring.
I'm not sure.
I maybe guiding is too strong, informing there, but then we say instrumental. Well, but guiding is softer than informing. That's the
Yes,
thing.
yes.
Is it? I don't know. It's a philosophical question, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, I'm broadly happy with that suggestion anyway.
Yeah.
So what do we? What is the next?
Is it worth
steps?
just going through each section and just saying who's going to? So what we were discussing before you found your way out of the Zoomiverse, whatever it's called, was that we were saying that maybe we should just allocate 1 or 2 people to each of the sections, just to have a go at writing some sensible kind of prose for each section, you know, that's somehow consistent with the overall challenges identified for each one. And then we can come back and then try and do another pass through the whole thing to join them up a bit better. Does that sound reasonable?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, I'm happy to have a go at 6-point new.
Okay.
I don't know if
So
someone
we
else-
are 5 sections and 8 people.
Well, 6.0 presumably we leave for the moment until we've got everything else in place.
I think
Yeah.
so.
So which ones?
Yes,
So
yes.
which are the sections? So 6 point
6
new.
point
Okay.
new, which Glenn just said he would.
6.3 I wrote quite a lot of, so I'm happy to carry on with that section.
6.4 or 2, I am happy with either, but I wouldn't do both.
Do you want to do 6.4?
Okay.
So Glenn is doing 6 point new.
Are you editing the file?
Jasmina is. Sorry, I'm not. Are you?
I was going to, but I thought maybe you were doing
Oh
it.
no, I can, but I wasn't.
Okay.
I'm keeping my hands off it at the moment, apart from reading it.
Let me also see. Yeah, I can also have a look at 6.4.
So 6.4 is interventions. 6.2 then is decision support.
I mean, I'm also happy to have a go at that one as well, because I think that's probably the one that's most of a Godel at the moment. But
So which one did you say I would be do 6.4 or 6.2?
6.4.
Okay, but I'm also happy to talk to the person who's going to be doing 6.2 as well, because I wrote quite a bit of it.
Yeah. And then 6.5. I don't know if anyone wants to have a look at that.
So what happened to 6.3?
6.3, Ben volunteered.
Oh yes, yeah, great.
I can have a go at 6.5 and make sure we don't overlap with the policy paper as well.
Brilliant, that'll be great. Thanks.
Good.
And should we, as we are doing this, just pick up the key messages from each of those and make them into a bulletin in the discussion, or is the discussion going to have a different structure?
Well, I think that might be quite a good start anyway to the discussion. I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
And maybe we just put from 6.new ABCD, from 6.2 ABCD, and then as we do that, we will see whether there is an overlap or whether, and then the discussion will be amalgamated.
Yeah. Is everyone happy if I just renumber the sections 6.1?
I think it would be good.
I quite liked 6.new as a name though.
That
was good.
The journal.
6 point to do.
Yeah.
Well, we could have them all like that, couldn't we? 6 point new, 6 point old, 6 point older still.
6 point undoable.
I missed out a bit of the conversation where you were talking about the challenges. Are we going to think of each section as a challenge?
Well, maybe we should try. That's easier. If we like the titles that now the sections have, we could try to make sections conform to that title.
No, I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, I think it would work well if it sort of, you know, if on consideration that you know, if it works for each section, it would look nice overall if each section was essentially a challenge. I mean, it doesn't have to be cool, you know, so and I suppose the argument might be if one of them turns out to have two challenges, well, perhaps it ought to be two sections. But I think the idea that you have a very broad challenges and then you have paragraphs describing the various bits of them is fine.
Right, good.
And
I think that would probably work best with this one, because these are quite big areas, aren't they, with a lot of bits.
Yeah. Can I just check that the introduction will be 6.1, right?
I think the form we had previously was, the idea was that the introduction was actually not numbered. I mean, it was notionally 0, but I think it was done without a number.
I'll leave it.
And the idea was, I don't think it was done in all the papers, but the idea was that the numbered sections were the challenges, and if there was a discussion at the end, that again was unnumbered. I think the difference we might suggest this time round is that the sections should have, you know, double numbers, like 6.1, 6.2, etc., because we're thinking there's going to be a lot of cross-referencing from one paper to another. So which is really saying stick with what we've got for the moment.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And for our own purposes, we may as well call the introduction 6.0, because I think it sort of helps to, and if we end up with a discussion one, you know, make that 6.n+1 where thanks, Glenn.
Okay, but that means that 6.new becomes 6.1.
Yes.
Yeah. Which
and then 6.4 might become either 4 or 2, depending on where we think it is well placed. I mean, it is in a good place right now.
Yeah, I've changed it to 6.2 for now, at least.
6.2 becomes 6.3. No, as long as there is a kind of list with these changes, it will be okay for the next discussion.
It looks like in the 2015 papers, the introduction didn't have a number, as Dennis said.
Yeah. Yeah. But by the way, the 2015 papers are all in the Dropbox.
Yeah. I just popped it here as an example.
Yeah. Thanks.
Can I just ask Dennis and Valerie? So is it going to be an epidemic special issue or something else?
No, well, the plan is that it's an epidemic special issue, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And we're hoping that all papers would aim to be completed by the end of March. That's our current plan.
Great.
So whether we'll all manage to meet that, I mean, I think this one will, but whether the others, how many of the others will, I'm not sure. But that's the aim anyway.
Okay, great.
How long does the review process take for an entire series of papers?
Well, they don't all have to be reviewed together because it's online publishing. They can appear when they're ready without having to wait for the laggards. So it's a bit less important, but I think we were hoping that for any particular, that the review process would be completed for all papers, say by the end of, I don't know, June, I think we said, Dennis, didn't we?
Yeah, we were.
In those discussions.
I mean, it depends what kind of, yeah. It depends exactly how the reviewing works, because I mean, I think it was, yeah, it's, I mean, the idea is to, obviously is to try and get independent reviewers, but equally to get people maybe from within the IDP family, so that who have some sympathy for the overall process, because what we want to have some rigorous standards, but equally it would be a great pity if the whole thing ends up being not comprehensive. So if any of the challenge papers looks not up to standard, then we want to try and fix it rather than just reject it. But maybe it's early stages. Maybe I'm being pessimistic in worrying about that, hopefully.
Well, I think the idea is that by having these groups of people like this one working on them and getting a lot of input and opinions as it happens, and then having an overall sort of editorial read through by people like Dennis and me and so on, I think we're hoping that it's had at least a preliminary review, as it were, by all that reading and commenting between us. I mean, because it is a bit different from a normal paper where it's written by a group of people who are working together. I mean, I know we are working together on it, but it's not quite the same because we're bringing different viewpoints to that process.
Well, it is an opinion paper, and as such, it is very difficult to review an opinion paper.
Yes.
I mean, what should the reviewer say? I don't agree that it is important to look at between strain models.
Sure.
Things
So, I mean,
like that.
Once the journal has decided that it wants this series of papers, which it does, I mean, as long as they are well written and hopeful and seem to have most of the points in, I suppose reviewers might say, I don't know, we've omitted something that they think of as an important challenge, in which case one might want to incorporate that sort of thing. But
of course, the critique could be that somebody says this problem has already been studied by so and so, but you have not mentioned that study. That we should try to fix at some stage, looking at references and.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So at the end, we will accept our own paper models.
I hope we do.
Okay, that sounds nice.
Excellent. So are we going to have individual mini Zoom sessions for the sections?
So I think possibly we just reconvene next week, and like the people responsible try and.
Where have you put me? Do I do anything useful?
Well, you didn't shout, so I haven't put you anywhere yet. But
No, I can read whatever and
Why
try to
don't
have an
we-
opinion.
Glenn, why don't you just put a couple of more people in each section so that we have some overview of, like, I mean, we know kind of who was doing what, but add more people into the sections now as we go along.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Where am I put on? That's also good to know.
I can go somewhere too. So
You were in interventions and policy before Peter, but you are welcome to go anywhere.
Now policy, I don't know whether I haven't done much there, but interventions might be more my.
Yeah, okay, I'll put you there.
I'd be interested in policy, I guess, and also in bits of relating to sort of model structures and how different models relate to each other. But,
Can put me wherever there's one less.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Where there's a gap, I
Well,
don't.
actually, Jampi, I might put you on the real-time decision support, because I think quite a lot of the text from that came from you, actually. So
Okay, which is 6.6.
you know, what is now 6.3.
If you just save it, I'll get the saved copy,
Yeah.
Glenn, so I can see it.
6.3, the one called using models to inform surveillance.
No, 6.2 originally. So modeling for real-time decision.
Okay, okay. Will do. Okay, then we reconvene in a week, having done this partial reviewing work, more or less.
Yeah, I think so. Valerie, I've added you to what's now 6.1. If that's
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. So that's the old 6 point new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I think you'd made some comments on anyway. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Glenn, why don't you save this whole thing into something called Chapter 06, just renumbered? Maybe sort of
Okay.
mark the occasion, and also remind us to
It's renumbered. Yeah.
ignore any numbers from previous versions.
Yeah, good point.
And okay, and I hope that each one in the sections that are reviewed or whatever reconfigured tries to get rid of all the present comments so that you can then have new comments.
Yeah.
Try to incorporate.
Yeah, it would be good to either accept or reject all the existing comments and have a sort of clean version to start messing around with again.
Yeah.
So sorry, who's going to do that?
Well, should we
Each one in its own section.
Yeah, I mean, I think that works, doesn't it? If each person makes or each pair or whatever it is, makes some sort of executive decision and gets to accept or reject and get, so that they start with something. Or at least they end with something fairly clean.
Yeah.
If Glenn will renumber the sections and put the renumbered version, then maybe next to these sections you can put the names if we have all by now chosen sections, so that we.
Yeah, no, I have done that. So, but I'll make sure that's on the new version.
fine. I was worried that I would have nothing to do for next week.
Not something you need to worry about, I'm sure.
Should we keep in our edits of the paragraphs?
I personally think we can just write the paragraphs, and then that will be our clean version to start with next time.
Yeah, I think
We can always refer back to this particular version.
yeah, I think we just write from scratch each section, really,
Yeah.
using as much or as little of what's there.
Yeah,
You're right. We leave this version or the renumbered version in the Dropbox, and then
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
could we perhaps agree that no one else will edit the things until, let's say, lunchtime, 1 o'clock today, and ask Glenn by 1 o'clock to have the version renumbered that he's happy with in the Dropbox, and maybe Glenn at the same time you could move the previous versions into the archive.
yeah, I can do that. Yeah,
So get a sort of clean start to after 1 o'clock.
yeah. Okay.
So but the version that he's just saved, which has been renumbered and
Yeah.
got our initials
Yeah.
alongside. Is there anything more to do on that?
renumber and put in the names of the reviewers for next
Yeah.
week, so that we know whom to collaborate with.
Yeah, no, those are in, aren't they?
I think I've done that. Yeah.
So on the latest version, if you download the latest
Okay. Well, if
updated version, I think it's all done.
Okay. Well, if it's all
Except perhaps the renaming.
Yeah.
So,
But I think like individuals who've got the sections can maybe decide that they want to have a slightly different name. Or
sorry, no, I meant the name for the overall file.
yeah, no, I'm just doing that now actually.
Yeah.
And how do we save it after we've made changes with the section name?
Yeah, so I guess individuals could just work on their section maybe and just create a file for that if you want. Might be easier than having a conflict.
I think if people are substantially changing a section, well, it would probably be better if they, exactly, if they copy the section into a separate file, so they can call it, 6.2 revised JG or whatever, the initials or whatever. Because I think, and then we can put it all together. So next week we would have potentially a new version of each section as separate files, and the discussion next week could be: are we happy to just put those all back together, or is more editing needed? For instance, I mean, one group might decide that part of 6.2 really belongs in some other section, but they should come along to sell it on Friday rather than.
Yeah.
I think having I think that's least accident prone, hopefully.
Yes, and the same thing goes, of course, for those who rewrite 6.2, that they might propose, so this part I would like to put in 6.4, and then we can discuss all this, but they can write it in their own file, in a sense, as a comment.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Happy birthday to your grandson, by the way.
Yes.
Well,
I hope you've got a cake ready.
We've had a especially that's oldest daughter and
Oh, so cute.
So yes, no, they were delivering our own cake, so we can have a Zoom tea where we have real cake, which is
Lovely.
Improvement on the usual sort.
How old is he, Dennis?
5 today.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. Right. Okay.
All right. So we meet again, and presumably the little subgroups liaise.
Yeah.
Yes, by email, and then we have the same time next week, presumably.
Perfect.
and if any group wants a Zoom meeting, they can use the tea or coffee break
Link. Yeah.
And as Valerie explained, next week it should be a sort of just two links, a sort of formal meetings link for an informal one. So
there will be this week. The bulletin came on Monday, the 11th. I think that was Monday.
Yeah.
So next Monday we will have a definite bulletin for
Well,
the
you
next
might
week.
you might get it today. But
Okay.
Megan is still making some changes to it. The idea is will be a sort of a simpler structure, hopefully, and it will not perhaps go to absolutely everybody who's ever received a bulletin in the past, but focus on people who are actually still involved and will hopefully want it.
That's also a question that I thought about. We are now 8, and I guess we are the definitive author group of this paper then, because there's nobody missing, or is it?
Well, the thing is, there might be people we want to recruit or involve that have gone missing, as it were, or been too busy or whatever. And I think when we get maybe after one more iteration of the draft or something, we should have a serious discussion of whether there's any other person we'd like to bring in. I mean, you know, if for instance, between us, we could think of 2 or 3 people we'd really like to have involved, we could send the draft to them for comments, but also say, you know, would they like to just give us any comments? But if they would like to be more actively involved and help us rewrite it, if they think there are things to add or change, they're welcome. At the moment, we have 80 people who are signed up to a challenge group in some way or another. Some of them have not been active, but but basically the criterion has been people who are signed up to the Slack channel for one of the challenges, or in a few cases who are known to be in that challenges group, though they've not signed up to the Slack channel. So there were 80 of those. So I did an email list of that for Megan, which is what the next.
But I admit that I have been at various meetings or sessions with various groups, but in the end, I feel that I'm concentrating on this paper.
Yeah.
That's where I speak the most. So I should probably be deleted from other groups as an active author, and then.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, we've got I'm just looking. We've got 24 people on the Slack channel for this one. Now we don't usually see 24. We might see the odd, but most. Well, I mean, I admit I'm there twice, so say 23. But apart from that, we don't have all those. So I think, I mean, there might be the odd extra person to involve.
Okay, we postponed this. We postponed this a week or two until we.
Yeah. In terms of other authors, though, is it okay to go outside people that weren't involved in any way in the program?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if they're the right person, because I think in some of the groups, I mean, for instance, the economics group has rather lately sort of reached out and found some people interested in economics and epidemiology who were not previously involved.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a possibility, sure.
Yeah, no, in particular, I was thinking about Gavin Gibson on the estimation paper, but
yeah. Now, if he's got time to make some input, that would be good.
Yeah.
Okay, are we all
done?
Yeah, that sounds great.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Okay. See you soon again. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.